Hello and welcome. It's Monday, the 19th of May. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on ARIRANG TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. President Park Geun-hye apologizes to the nation for the sinking of the Sewol-ho ferry. She also vows to take several steps to make Korea a safer country. In a rare public disclosure about anything that could be construed as negative, North Korea says sorry for the fatal collapse of an apartment building in Pyongyang. Plus, 3 of Korea's leading credit card companies are cleared to resume business. They have been slapped with 3-month business suspensions for their role in the country's largest ever data leak earlier this year. 33 days have passed since the Sewol-ho ferry sank off Korea's southwestern coast, taking with it the lives of so many young people. Within the last hour, President Park Geun-hye has directly apologized for the government's failure to prevent the tragedy, this during a nationally televised address. She also laid out measures to bolster national security and root out irregularities in public service. For details, let's connect to our presidential office correspondent Choi You-sun. You-sun.
Mark, standing before the nation on this Friday, President Park took full responsibility for the government's inability to manage the Sewol-ho ferry accident on April 16th that has left more than 300 people dead or missing. She said she, as the head of state, is responsible for ensuring the lives of the people and their safety. This was the first time President Park directly apologized to the nation about the Sewol-ho ferry accident, and also the first direct apology concerning a specific issue. She had been heavily criticized for her previous apology during a cabinet meeting, which many people felt she wasn't taking full responsibility for. Mark?
And You-sun, the president laid out a major restructuring of the government to bolster the nation's emergency response and safety systems.
Well, Mark, this is because the government has come under fire for its inability to, and also its lax and late response to the ferry sinking, which is believed to have increased the number of deaths. President Park admitting that the Coast Guard failed to fulfill its duties to swiftly attend to the passengers in the ferry. President Park said she will dissolve the organization, the Coast Guard that is. The National Police Agency will take over the Coast Guard's investigation and intelligence duties, and a new safety ministry will manage maritime rescue operations and security. The Security and Administration Ministry, which was responsible for national safety and hiring in the public sector, will only handle administrative affairs. Overseeing hiring in public service will be transferred to a new ministry under the Prime Minister's office. The Maritime Ministry will now specialize in fostering maritime and fisheries industries, and the new restructuring bill will soon be submitted to Parliament.
Yes, well, she certainly did promise some widespread reforms during her address. And President Park also referred to the hiring of retired public employees to head public organizations and affiliates. And this has been widely blamed for the government's inefficient and rather lax handling of the disaster.
Well, President Park laid out a string of measures which include tripling the number of public organizations that are not allowed to hire retired public employees, as well as extending the period of time after which they can return to the workforce. President Park also proposed a special investigation President Park also proposed a special law on the Sewol-ho ferry disaster, which includes an independent body to investigate the causes of the ferry accident and who should take responsibility. She also talked about a special probe to specifically investigate the accident and related issues. Close to tears as she read out the names of some of the ferry victims on this Monday, President Park said that she will designate April 16th to remember their sacrifices. And this has been Choi You-sun, and I'll bring you more details in our next newscast at noon. Mark?
Thank you very much, You-sun. Now, turning to the probe into what caused the sinking, the head of the shadowy family network that owned the Sewol-ho ferry is now the main focus of this investigation. Yoo Byung-an is presumed to be hiding inside a compound run by his religious cult, but no one really knows for sure. Officials may have a new lead, however, after comments made by one of Yoo's close business associates. Our Connie Kim reports.
The chairman of an affiliate of Sewol Group, which controls Cheongjin Marine Company, seemed to confirm that the practical owner of the Sewol-ho ferry is hiding at the headquarters of a religious sect his family leads in Kumsuwon, Gyeonggi-do Province, south of Seoul, but then he changed his mind. Hemato-centric Life chairman Lee Jae-ok said in a press briefing inside the compound on Sunday that Yoo might come outside if his name were called.
Yoo has taken pictures from that window over the past 4 years. He might come outside if I shouted his name.
But as the press continued to ask about Yoo's whereabouts, Lee reversed himself, saying he doesn't know where Yoo is.
The last time I saw him was about a week after the Sewol-ho ferry accident.
The briefing was held in a yard inside the compound where Yoo has taken photos. The religious sect opened some of the facilities to the press on Sunday and asked that everything happening inside be made public. Now, Yoo is believed to be in hiding after he failed to appear for questioning last Friday. Recent reports that Yoo was trying to escape the compound in the car of a believer have prompted police to strengthen its surveillance of cars coming in and out of the facility. The 73-year-old is suspected of tax evasion and embezzlement of millions of dollars from company affiliates owned by him and members of his family. Yoo has until Tuesday to show up for a court hearing. If he fails to appear, the court is likely to issue an arrest warrant for Yoo on Thursday. Arrest warrants for Yoo's second son and eldest daughter, both of whom are abroad, have been issued after the two failed to appear for questioning. More than a month after the Sewol-ho ferry sunk off the southwestern coast of Korea, another body was pulled from the waters Sunday morning, raising the death toll from the disaster to 286. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
Lawmakers at the National Assembly will begin a one-month extraordinary session on this Monday to address the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. And with local elections coming up in less than 3 weeks' time, political watchers say they expect clashes between the nation's two main parties. The ruling Saenuri party is expected to focus on the fundamental cause of the accident, while the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy is likely to focus on the government's response. Last Friday, after meeting with the families of the victims, President Park Geun-hye stressed the need to create a new law related to the ferry accident and the installation of a special prosecutor. Both those topics will be discussed by the lawmakers.
Said that a team of South Korea...
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. Now, in a rare move, a very rare move, North Korea state media has reported on a serious accident at an apartment construction site in the North Korean capital, Pyongyang. The report, which was broadcast on Sunday, said high-level officials were sorry for putting the lives of the people at risk. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
North Korea called it an unimaginable accident after an unfinished 23-story apartment building collapsed in Pyongyang, reportedly injuring hundreds of people. The state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Sunday the collapse occurred last Tuesday due to the result of irresponsible supervision. The report did not provide a death toll, but said a search and rescue operation had been carried out to find survivors and treat the injured. Leader Kim Jong-un reportedly sat up all night in pain after being told about the accident. He instructed leading officials of the party, state, and the army to rush to the scene and command the rescue operation. The agency published lengthy apologies from senior officials, including Minister of People Security Choi You-sun, who apologized for putting lives and property at risk. A South Korean official who wished to remain anonymous said, although the 23-story apartment building was still under construction, 92 families were already living there. He said it's common in the north for people to move in before construction officially ends, and said the final death toll was likely to be considerable. It's extremely rare for North Korea's state media to report on an accident such as this, and for high-ranking officials to issue an apology. Experts say the report was likely meant to show Yang Kim as a leader who cares about the people, and to prove the North Korean government better than the South by drawing a comparison between the building collapse and the sinking of the Sewol-ho ferry. Hwang Sang-hee, ARIRANG News.
The United States has proposed establishing a joint missile defense system with South Korea and Japan to ensure a rapid response to any further North Korean provocations. The Yomiuri Shimbun reported Sunday that U.S. National Security Advisor Susan Rice mentioned the idea to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe during President Barack Obama's visit to Japan back in April. Abe reportedly agreed to encourage Seoul to share its radar information on North Korea's missile activities. The Daily said the South's proximity to North Korea and Japan's advanced missile defense system could work together to respond to threats from Pyongyang. The Daily pointed out, however, that the poor diplomatic ties between Seoul and Tokyo is the main stumbling block to this plan. Former Japanese Prime Minister Tomiichi Murayama has criticized current Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for seeking to change the constitution so Japan can exercise its right to collective self-defense. In an interview with the Japanese daily Asahi Shimbun on Sunday, Murayama said it was deceptive for the government to say it cannot protect its own citizens if it doesn't lift the ban. The former Prime Minister added Abe has no right to change the interpretation of the constitution, saying the document would have no real meaning if it were just to change with each and every new administration. As Prime Minister, Murayama issued an apology for Japan's colonization of Korea and its wartime atrocities. Back here in Korea, and three of the nation's leading credit card firms are fully back to work as a 3-month business suspension slapped on them for their involvement in the biggest personal data leak in Korean history has now come to an end. However, financial authorities will keep a close eye on them and stand ready with more sanctions if they step out of line again. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
Credit card companies KB Gungmin Card, Lotte Card, and NH Nongyup Card have resumed operations after a 3-month business suspension following the leak of personal data of some 140 million customers. Starting with online services, the card companies are now able to issue new credit cards, extend loans, and provide cash advances. The firms will also promote a series of new card products with ample benefits to attract new customers and make up for the loss incurred during the suspension period. The ban is believed to have cost the companies tens of millions of dollars and millions of customers. The country's biggest ever data leak was caused by an employee from a credit ratings agency stealing personal information, including identification numbers and bank account numbers, and selling it to an advertising company. Meanwhile, financial authorities are planning to offer greater incentives for reporting of illegal practices of card firms when issuing new credit cards. The Financial Supervisory Service said those who report of illegal methods to entice customers, such as issuing credit cards on the streets or offering giveaways that exceed 10% of the annual membership fee, will be able to receive roughly $490 in incentives, 5 times more than the original amount. The reporting period will also be extended to 60 days from the current 20 and can be done through the Credit Finance Association, the Financial Supervisory Service, or individual card companies. The financial authorities say they will inspect the credit card companies during the second half of the year, and if they conduct wrongdoings or irregularities, they will be subject to heftier punishment. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
U.S. lawmakers are calling for action against Korean steel makers for selling products in the United States for less than their market value. 56 members of the U.S. Senate denounced a preliminary ruling made by the U.S. Commerce Department back in February that imposes anti-dumping duties on imports from 8 countries but excluded steel pipes and tubes made right here in Korea. They called for the Commerce Department to review Korea's case out of concern of the economic impact it is having on U.S. steel makers. A final determination may be made in July, with the U.S. International Trade Commission making its final decision by August 21st. Now, doctors treating Samsung chairman Lee Geun-hye say the 72-year-old is on the mend after his heart attack. Officials at the Samsung Medical Center in southern Seoul said Sunday that he is gradually getting better and doctors are considering transferring him to a general ward, dispelling rumors that it's still touch and go whether he will make a full recovery. Samsung is reportedly considering legal options against those spreading rumors. The 72-year-old, who helped build Samsung Electronics into one of the world's biggest tech firms, has a history of health issues. This latest health scare, however, is expected to speed up the transfer of executive control to his only son, Lee Jae-yong. Time now for a look through the international headlines we're following this morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim at the News Center. Very good morning to you, Eunice. Now, recovery operations in Turkey's worst ever mining accident have finished, and the investigation is now in full swing.
Hi, Mark. That's right. Turkish police have arrested 25 people in connection to that Soma coal mine collapse, as now the attention turns to who was responsible for that disaster. And according to Turkey's Dogan news agency, among the detained were the mine's general manager and the mine operations manager. The owner of the mine, Soma Holdings, has maintained that the collapse was not caused by negligence, but rather an unexplained buildup of heat. The last of the bodies were pulled out Saturday afternoon, putting the final death toll at 301 people. Demonstrations condemning the government's handling of the accident continued into the weekend as hundreds of people occupied the capital of Ankara, Istanbul, and Izmir. Local authorities have banned protests in Soma. Islamic rebel forces in Syria say the country's air defense chief was killed during combat operations in an area east of Damascus, a development also confirmed by Britain-based Monitor, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. They said General Hussein Ishaq died from wounds incurred during an offensive by President Bashar al-Assad's forces aimed at taking more of the capital region ahead of a presidential election on June 3rd. Ishaq is one of the few top-ranking officers to die in Syria's 3-year civil war. The Balkan Peninsula is being swept by the worst flooding the region has seen since records were kept 120 years ago. 3 months' worth of rain fell in 3 days, prompting evacuations of tens of thousands of people throughout Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia. The number of casualties vary at more than 20 and is expected to climb as the water recedes. The flooding also triggered more than 3,000 landslides Sunday, covering homes, roads, and entire villages. Soldiers and volunteers in Serbia are piling sandbags around a main power plant that supplies a third of the country's energy needs and is being threatened by the flood waters. Humanitarian aid and rescue teams are pouring in from EU nations. Russia has sent 2 cargo planes filled with food, boats, and generators to help deal with the torrential rain's aftermath. And finally, the first suspected person-to-person transmission of the Middle East respiratory virus has been recorded in the United States. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said a man from Illinois likely picked up the infection from an Indiana man during a business meeting earlier this month, though he did not show the symptoms of the virus and was reportedly feeling fine. The Indiana man, however, was hospitalized shortly after traveling from Saudi Arabia, where he works as a healthcare worker. The U.S. Health Institute says the case does not change the risk to the general public, which remains low.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in badminton, where Lee Yong-dae and Kim Ki-jung won their first competition after being reinstated from their suspension. And they're off to a great start. With Yong-dae pairing up with Yoo Yeon-sung and facing off against a German pair, they take the match in 3 sets, 21-11, 8-21, and 21-19 to take the match 2 sets to 1. The victory is the first since coming back from his suspension, as the men's team will face off with the host nation India, and the women's team will face off against Australia in the second match of the group stages next. And now moving over to the annual Korea-Japan University Basketball Competition, as Korea continue their dominance over Japan with a 3-straight win over their opponents. With their final game taking place at the Korea University Hwajang Gymnasium, Korea beats Japan 82-71, led by Lee Jong-hyun as he scores 14 points and 6 rebounds in just the second quarter alone. With the win, Korea improves their record at 83 wins and 27 losses against Japan in the 37 times that they've held this competition. And now with that, moving over to the 2014 Women's Asian Cup, where Korea continued their dominance in Group B with a 4-0 win over Thailand. Now, Korea, of course, led by Seoul City Hall's Park Geun-hye, who scored a hat-trick in the match. Now, Korea continues their scoring ways after beating Myanmar 12-0 in the first match of the group stages. And now, of course, staying in football, but over to Sunday's K-League Classic action. We had one match take place with FC Seoul taking on Seongnam FC, so let's take a look at the highlights. Of course, going into the match here, a rather quiet first half of the match as both sides failed to score as they head into the second half scoreless 0-0. But the second half, both sides get a bit more aggressive, especially FC Seoul continues to fire away. But the 85th minute, Park Geun-hye with a brilliant overhead kick finds the back of the net. Holy cow, a brilliant goal. And that's the final score there as FC Seoul pulls away with a 1-0 win over Seongnam FC. And now moving over to some Sunday's KBO action as the Doosan Bears end their 7-game winning streak, losing to the NC Dinos 9-4, with the Samsung Lions beating the Kia Tigers 8-2, and the Lotte Giants, thanks to Hwang Jae-gyun's grand slam, beat the Nexen Heroes 11-6. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Hanwha Eagles looking to win their series against the SK Wyverns. Of course, going into the game here, first inning, man on second, Luke Scott singles to right, and RBI single gives the SK Wyverns the 1-0 lead. Bottom of the inning, Chang Moon-ho doubles to left center. Lee Young-gyu scores all the way from first, and we're tied 1-1. Not done yet. Kim Tae-gyun this time singles to left field, and the Hanwha Eagles have the lead 2-1. Fifth inning, Hong Myung-chun singles to center here, and we're tied 2-2. Sixth inning, bases loaded for Lee Dae-soo, and he capitalizes on the intentional walk from the previous batter with a 2-run single. And the Hanwha Eagles have the lead 4-2. And despite SK with 12 base hits on the game, they never come back as the Hanwha Eagles take the series with a 5-2 victory. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with the latest weather updates. While summer-like conditions should continue today, temperatures will rise to upper 20s to low 30s in most parts of the peninsula, with highs here in the capital reaching to 26 degrees Celsius. Also, the whole nation can expect to see much more sun than clouds, so we can look forward to have mostly to partly sunny afternoon. And with that sunshine, it could feel hotter than the actual temperatures. And it seems like hot and sunny weather will stick around for a while. Temperatures hovering upper 20s here in the capital. So the weather this week would make us believe that the summer is already here. Now, over in Jindo, winds and waves should continue to remain calm, and the currents in the water will get weaker as the spring tide period ended yesterday. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will rise to 26, while Daegu and Gwangju should rise to 32 and 29 respectively, and Busan should reach 24 in the afternoon. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will peak to 25 and 29, and Mount Kumgang should see a high of 14 this afternoon. Well, that's all for now, but I'll be back with more updates afternoon.
Thank you very much, Jian. And that's all we have for now, unfortunately, but we'll be back at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.